I still remember the moment my life split in two before the call. And after the call. It was a quiet morning in Dallas. The kind of morning where nothing feels wrong. The sun was warm, the air was calm, and I was halfway through my first cup of coffee, thinking about the long workday ahead. It was supposed to be a normal day, predictable, steady, safe. But sometimes life doesn't warn you before it hits. Sometimes it just changes. My phone buzzed on the counter, an unknown number. Normally I'd ignore it, but something in my gut told me to pick up. Maybe it was the tone of the morning, or maybe it was the silence that felt a little too still. I answered. "Hello, is this Mark Holloway?" The voice was formal, almost tense. "Yes, this is Mark." There was a pause, a long one. Then the person asked me a question that froze my entire world. "Are you aware your home is gone?" Gone. The word hit me like someone had pulled the floor out from under me. I actually thought I misheard him. "I'm sorry, what?" "My home is what?" "Gone, sir. The property transfer was completed last week." My heart started pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. My vision blurred. For a few seconds, I forgot how to breathe. "My house isn't for sale," I said, my voice barely steady. "This is a mistake. It has to be a mistake." The man on the phone spoke gently, but the words still felt like punches. "I wish it were, Mr. Holloway, but the documents show it was sold, and according to our records, you signed off on it." I felt my entire body go cold. I gripped the edge of the counter just to stay standing. Signed off? Me? I had never signed anything. I hadn't agreed to anything. And yet this stranger on the phone was telling me that everything I worked for, every hour, every sacrifice, every dream I built was gone. But the strangest thing about that moment wasn't the fear. It wasn't the shock. It wasn't even the confusion. It was the whisper at the back of my mind. The quiet voice telling me that someone, somewhere had done this on purpose. I hung up the phone and just stood there, my hands shaking. My home, my future couldn't just vanish. Someone had to make it vanish, and there was only one person who had access to enough of my life to pull something like that off. Emily, my girlfriend, the woman who lived under my roof, the woman I trusted. A part of me tried to push the thought away. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to even think it. But there's a moment in life when your heart knows the truth before your head can catch up. And in that moment, mine did. Something was wrong. Something had been wrong for a long time. And this phone call wasn't the start of it. It was the moment the truth finally leaked through the cracks. The betrayal was bigger than I could understand. The lies went deeper than I could imagine. And the person I trusted most might have just destroyed everything I built. I didn't know it yet. But this was only the beginning. The beginning of the darkest chapter of my life, and the beginning of the truth that would eventually bring everything crashing down. Before everything collapsed, my life looked steady from the outside. Not perfect, not glamorous, but solid. A life I was proud of. I worked as a project manager at a construction firm in Dallas. It wasn't the kind of job that made people stare in awe, but it paid well enough, and it gave me a sense of purpose. I liked the structure, the responsibility, the feeling of building something real, something people could walk into, something that lasted. And speaking of something that lasted, my house was my biggest accomplishment. I bought it after years of saving, cutting corners, working late nights. While my friends were buying new cars or taking vacations, I was eating budget meals and doing whatever it took to reach that one goal. When I finally walked into that house with the keys in my hand, it felt like stepping into my future. Like the world finally said, "You earned this." And for a while, life felt calm. Almost perfect. Part of that calm came from Emily. She was warm, charming, full of compliments. The kind of woman who made you feel like you were doing everything right just by being yourself. We met at a community volunteer event, and I fell for her smile long before I knew anything about her. She moved in about a year after we started dating. It felt natural, easy. Every morning, she'd hand me my coffee with a playful smirk. Every evening, she'd ask how my day went and listen like it truly mattered. If someone had walked into our home back then, they would have said we were the perfect couple. But perfect is a dangerous word, because perfect can hide things. I started noticing small things, little moments that didn't sit right. But I told myself not to be dramatic. Everyone has quirks, right? Like how she always insisted on getting the mail before I could. At first, it felt thoughtful. Then it felt odd. Or how she'd ask a lot of questions about my job, my pay, my paperwork. Not normal curiosity, almost like she was taking notes. Sometimes she'd watch me fill out forms or sign documents with this strange focus, almost like she was studying the way I wrote my name. But whenever I teased her about it, she'd laugh it off. "You're imagining things, babe. I just like how careful you are." And I believed her. Because when you love someone, you don't jump to the worst conclusion. You don't look for danger in their smile. You don't assume the hand you're holding has something hidden behind its back. There was one moment that sticks with me, now when I ignored at the time. I came home early from a work site, and Emily was sitting at the dining table with my personal papers spread out in front of her. Bank statements, insurance letters, tax documents. She jumped the moment she saw me, scrambling to gather everything. Oh, I was just organizing things. You know how messy this drawer was. I didn't question it. I didn't push. I told myself she was helping, but later that night, I remember lying in bed feeling uneasy without knowing why. Back then, those small moments felt like nothing. Just noise, but now, every single one feels like a breadcrumb leading straight to the truth. The truth that she wasn't studying my habits. She wasn't organizing my papers. She wasn't being thoughtful. She was preparing. Planning. Mapping out a future she wasn't planning to build with me, but a future she planned to take from me. And the saddest part, I had no idea, because sometimes betrayal doesn't start loud. Sometimes it starts soft. So soft you call it love. I always believe that trouble announces itself. A loud sound, a big argument, something obvious, but the truth is, trouble often whispers. And if you're not paying attention, you'll miss the first warning signs completely. The first crack in my life appeared on a random Tuesday, one of those plain, forgettable days that ends up changing everything. I came home early from work because a site inspection got rescheduled. I figured I'd get ahead of a few chores, maybe surprise Emily with takeout. I wasn't expecting anything unusual, but the moment I walked into the house, something felt off. Emily was sitting at the dining table with a pile of envelopes scattered around her. Not hers, mine. I recognized the return addresses, banks, insurance companies, my mortgage lender. Stuff I never saw because she always helped by getting the mail first. She jumped when she heard the door open. "Oh, Mark, you're home early." Her voice was calm, but her hands moved too fast. She tried to slide a thick envelope under a magazine, almost like she hoped I hadn't seen it. I asked, "What are you doing with all that?" She forced a smile. "Just organizing. You leave everything in a mess." But I didn't remember leaving those envelopes anywhere. And the more I looked, the more I realized these weren't old papers. They were new, fresh. Some were unopened. "Why didn't you give me these?" I asked. She shrugged it off. "You work so much." I didn't want to bother you. It sounded harmless, sweet even. But something about her tone made the hairs on my neck stand up. Later that night, curiosity got the best of me. When she fell asleep, I quietly logged into my mortgage portal, something I hadn't done in weeks because Emily always insisted she was keeping track. But when I typed my password, it didn't work. Strange. I tried again. Still nothing. After resetting it and finally getting in, I scrolled through the dashboard. Everything looked normal at first, until one small notification caught my eye. Ownership transfer inquiry in process. My stomach tightened. This had to be a mistake. A glitch. Something simple. I called the mortgage company the next morning. A woman answered and began reviewing my account. "Oh yes," she said casually. "It looks like someone initiated paperwork to transfer or refinance the property." My throat went dry. "Who initiated it?" I asked. "Well, the system shows it came from the secondary applicant." "There is no secondary applicant," I said firmly. "I'm the only name on that mortgage." Another pause. A deeper one this time. "Well, according to our records, there is." "Who?" I demanded. "Emily Carter." My heart dropped. I hung up and drove home faster than I should have. Emily was in the living room, painting her nails like nothing was wrong. I held my phone out. "Why is your name on my mortgage account?" She didn't flinch. She didn't panic. Instead, she sighed dramatically. "Mark, really?" I was trying to help. "You've been talking about wanting lower payments. I thought refinancing could ease the pressure. You worry too much." Her tone was too calm. The kind of calm that makes you wonder what someone is hiding behind their eyes. I wanted to believe her. I really did, but her answer felt rehearsed, smooth, prepared. Little crack had opened in the foundation of our relationship. Just a tiny crack. But tiny cracks turn into fractures. Fractures turn into breaks. And breaks turn into collapse. I didn't know it yet, but this was the moment everything started to unravel. This was the moment I should have questioned everything. But instead, I let the crack grow. Some moments in life don't give you time to prepare. They just hit you so hard that everything inside you shifts. And for me, that moment came on a Thursday afternoon only 2 weeks after I found that strange ownership transfer message on my mortgage account. I was at work, reviewing blueprints, when my phone buzzed. Another unknown number. I almost ignored it, until something inside me whispered, "Answer it." So I did. "Hello, is this Mark Holloway?" "Yes, speaking." "This is the county clerk's office. I'm calling to confirm the sale of your property and notify you about the final paperwork." I felt everything inside me freeze. What? "My property isn't for sale." Silence. Then the man said slowly, like he was trying not to alarm me, "Sir, according to our records, your house was sold last week." The world around me went quiet. The people in the office kept moving, talking, typing. But it felt like I stepped outside of time. "That's impossible," I whispered. "I never sold anything." "Well," the clerk said, "your signature is on the transfer documents. I just need to verify your move-out date." My heart dropped. "My signature? No, that couldn't be. I didn't sign anything," I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. "Send me the documents right now." He emailed them. And when I opened the file on my phone, I felt my chest tighten. There it was. My name, my full signature, except it wasn't mine. Someone had copied it almost perfectly. Same loops, same style, same slant. Almost exact, but not exact enough. I knew instantly who did it. I didn't want to believe it. But deep down, I already knew. I left work without saying a word. I don't remember the drive home. I just remember gripping the steering wheel so tight my hands hurt. When I walked into the house, Emily was sitting on the couch watching TV, completely relaxed. Like nothing in the world was wrong. I stood in front of her and said quietly, "My house is sold." The county clerk just called me. She didn't blink. She didn't gasp. She didn't even pretend to be shocked. Instead, she sighed like I was the problem. "Mark, don't start. You're making this more dramatic than it needs to be." I stared at her, stunned. "You sold my house?" She rolled her eyes. "We needed the money. You don't understand how to take risks. You're always stuck in the same safe routines." Every word hit me like a punch. "We?" I asked. "You mean you? You did this behind my back." She stood up, arms crossed. "If you paid attention, you would have known what was going on." Her calmness scared me more than her actions. "Emily, You forged my signature. That's illegal. She shrugged. Don't be dramatic. I only did what you never had the courage to do. You'd thank me if you weren't so stubborn. Then she walked to her purse, pulled out a folded stack of papers, and tossed them onto the table. Fine, she said. If you're going to make this a big deal here. I opened the papers. My signature. My full name. Page after page. None of it was mine. My whole body went numb. I couldn't speak. I couldn't think. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was betrayal, carefully planned, carefully disguised, carefully executed. She didn't just take something from me. She took my future, my stability, my trust, and she stood there acting like I was the unreasonable one. In that moment, I realized something heartbreaking. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted with my home, my life, my heart, had been building a plan to take it all from me, not out of desperation, not out of fear, but because she wanted control. And for the first time since all this began, I felt something inside me break. Not anger, not confusion. Just the quiet, painful truth. The person I thought was my partner was my biggest threat. There's a point in every nightmare where you hit bottom, where the shock fades and all that's left is the quiet ache of reality. That was me sitting alone in my friend Eric's spare bedroom, staring at the wall like it could explain how my entire life had fallen apart. My house was gone. My trust was broken. And the person I thought I knew was someone I didn't recognize anymore. For the first few days, I barely slept. I walked around like a ghost, replaying every moment with Emily, every small sign I ignored, every time I let her handle something because I trusted her. The guilt ate at me. The betrayal hollowed me out. I felt like my whole future had been stolen, signed away. Without my voice. But rock bottom has a strange power. Once you hit it, there's only one direction left to go. And on the fourth morning, with my head pounding and my heart heavy, I made a decision. I wasn't letting this destroy me. I wasn't letting her win. I was going to fight back. The next step was finding someone who knew the system better than I did. That led me to Daniel Brooks, a calm, sharp-eyed attorney with a reputation for being relentless when the truth was buried. He listened to everything, every detail, every document, every suspicion. He didn't interrupt. He didn't judge. He just nodded slowly, taking notes. When I finally finished talking, he sat back and said, "Mark, what she did isn't just wrong. It's illegal. And if we can prove forgery and fraud, we can reverse the sale." For the first time in weeks, I felt a small breath of hope. Daniel continued, "But we need evidence. Real evidence. More than your words or suspicions. You ready for that?" I didn't hesitate. Yes, whatever it takes. And so the fight began. What followed felt like something out of a detective movie, a long, exhausting hunt for the truth. I dug through every drawer, every box, every folder Emily had ever touched. Old bills, bank statements, letters she kept tucked away. Anything that could be out of place. Then Daniel helped subpoena digital records, emails, phone logs, mortgage correspondence. All the things she thought I'd never see. Piece by piece, the truth began to surface. First was the notary. The name on the transfer document didn't match any licensed notary in the state. When we tracked the person down, she admitted Emily had approached her, trying to get a signature for a friend, and offering cash. The notary refused. But Emily had copied her stamp from a public database. That was our first real break. Then came the bank notifications we found buried in Emily's old email attempts to open credit lines in my name. Applications sent at 3 a.m. when I was asleep. Password recovery attempts from devices I didn't recognize. But the biggest discovery, the one that made my stomach drop, came from an old laptop she left in the closet. Inside a folder labeled "Private, Do Not Open." We found everything. Practice signatures, hundreds of them. Scanned copies of my real signature she used as guides. Notes about how to mimic my handwriting. A timeline labeled "Plan to Secure Assets." And worst of all, a checklist that ended with, "Finalize house transfer, Mark won't know." Seeing that broke something inside me. Not in a hopeless way. In a fuel way. Because at that moment, every piece clicked into place. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't stress. This wasn't confusion. This was planned. Step by step. Month by month. Emily had been preparing to take my future long before I even sensed trouble. And now? She had no idea the evidence we had. I closed the laptop, looked at Daniel, and said, "Let's bring the truth out." And for the first time since the nightmare began, I wasn't scared anymore. I was ready. The morning of the court hearing, the sky felt heavier than usual, almost like it knew something big was about to happen. I stood outside the courthouse with my attorney, Daniel Brooks, feeling my heartbeat in my throat. Months of fear, anger, confusion, and sleepless nights had led to this moment. Daniel looked at me and said quietly, "This is where everything shifts. Stay strong." I nodded, even though my legs felt like they were made of stone. Walking into that courtroom was like stepping onto a battlefield. The air was thick. The people whispered. Every sound echoed as if the walls themselves were paying attention. Then I saw her. Emily, sitting at the defendant's table, wearing a soft blue dress, her hair neatly curled, acting like she was the innocent one in all of this. When our eyes met, she gave me a small smile, like this was some simple misunderstanding we'd laugh about someday. I felt my hands clench. The judge entered. The room stood, and everything began. Emily tries to downplay everything. When Emily took the stand, she spoke with a sweetness that would have fooled any stranger. "Your Honor, I never meant to cause harm. Mark gets stressed easily. I was only trying to help him manage things. He misunderstood my intentions." Misunderstood. That word burned through me. She painted herself as calm, caring, thoughtful. She claimed the forged signature was a mix-up. The credit applications were accidental clicks, and the house sale was a temporary financial decision. She even tried to wipe away a tear, but her performance didn't last long. Daniel begins revealing the truth. When Daniel approached the front of the room, the energy shifted. He was calm, but you could feel the storm behind his voice. "Your Honor," he began, "we'd like to start with Exhibit A." He placed a stack of documents on the projector. The forged signature. The exact financial forms Emily claimed were accidental. Side-by-side comparison showing my real signature and the copied one. The judge looked up, eyebrows raised. Then Daniel pulled out the notary testimony, the woman who confirmed Emily tried to get her stamp wrongfully. Then came the emails Emily sent pretending to be me. Requests for bank forms. Password resets. Mortgage inquiries. The courtroom grew silent. Emily shifted in her seat. Her calm mask beginning to crack. The smoking gun. Her secret files. Then Daniel clicked the projector once more. "This," he said, "was found on Miss Carter's personal laptop." And up on the screen appeared a folder labeled "Private, Do Not Open." Dozens of practice signatures, hundreds of strokes mimicking my handwriting, a digital checklist titled "Plan to Secure Assets." Note that read, "Mark never checks anything, easy." The entire courtroom gasped. Even the judge leaned forward in disbelief. You could feel every pair of eyes shift toward Emily. Her face drained of color. Her jaw trembled. This wasn't something she could sweet-talk her way out of. The judge delivers the ruling after hours of testimony and evidence. The judge finally spoke. His voice was steady, but firm. "Miss Carter, the evidence shows clear intent to deceive, manipulate, and unlawfully transfer property. This court has no choice but to rule that the sale of the home is void. Ownership returns to Mr. Holloway immediately." Emily covered her mouth in shock. The judge continued, "Additionally, Ms. Carter will be held responsible for damages, legal fees, and any financial attempts made under Mr. Holloway's name. This court will not tolerate deliberate acts of fraud." I felt my chest loosen, like someone finally lifted a weight I had carried for months. Emily didn't look at me again. Not once. The truth finally walked into the room. Walking out of that courtroom, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Relief. Not happiness, not joy, but the deep, quiet relief that comes when the truth finally gets a voice. Emily tried to break my future. She tried to rewrite my life, but in the end, the truth exposed everything she thought she buried. And that truth gave me my life back. There are moments in life when stepping through a doorway feels like stepping into another version of yourself. For me, that moment happened the day I finally returned to my house. The house Emily tried to take. The house she sold behind my back. The house that held years of memories, good and bad. When I pulled into the driveway, my hands shook on the steering wheel. Not from fear, but from something deeper. Something like relief, mixed with disbelief, mixed with a quiet kind of victory. The sun was setting, painting the house in warm gold light. It looked peaceful. It looked like it had been waiting for me. I walked up the path slowly, almost afraid that if I blinked too hard, everything would disappear again. When I reached the front door and placed my hand on the handle, I felt a rush of emotion hit me. Months of stress, betrayal, heartbreak, and exhaustion all rising at once. I turned the key. The lock clicked, and the door opened. The smell hit me first, a smell I hadn't realized I missed. A mix of old wood, paint, and the faint trace of the cinnamon candles I used to burn on weekends. The house was quiet, untouched, almost frozen in time. For a moment, I just stood there, breathing, feeling, letting myself remember what this place meant. Then slowly, I walked from room to room. The living room where Emily and I used to drink coffee. The kitchen where I cooked meals that she barely acknowledged. The bedroom where the lies began long before I ever noticed them. But instead of sadness, I felt something else. Clarity. That this wasn't our home anymore. It was mine. And this time, I wasn't sharing it with anyone who didn't deserve it. Rebuilding begins. The next few weeks were a blur of cleaning, painting, and rearranging. Every brushstroke felt like rewriting a chapter of my life. Every piece of furniture I moved felt like pushing her memory out of the corners she once filled. I replaced the curtains she picked, repainted the walls she once complained about, bought a couch that matched my taste, not hers. With each change, the house felt lighter, brighter, more like me. It wasn't just home improvement. It was healing. Little by little, I rebuilt more than walls. I rebuilt my confidence, my peace, my sense of control. Emily tries to come back, of course. Emily didn't just vanish. She tried calling, texting, sending long messages full of excuses, apologies, and half-truths. "Mark, we need to talk. Please don't shut me out. You don't understand why I did it. We can fix this." But I didn't respond. Not once, because some conversations don't bring closure, they reopen wounds. Ignoring her wasn't revenge. It was protection. She'd already taken too much. I wasn't letting her take another second of my peace. Reclaiming the future. One evening, after finishing the last coat of paint in the hallway, I sat on the new couch and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Stillness. Not the heavy kind that comes with fear. The soft kind that comes with starting over. This house wasn't just brick and wood. It was a symbol of what I earned, what I almost lost, and what I refused to let anyone take from me again. Emily tried to rewrite my future. She tried to decide the direction of my life without asking, without caring, without hesitation. But standing in the home I reclaimed, I finally understood something. She didn't break my future. She just forced me to rebuild it with clearer eyes. This wasn't the end of my story. It was the turning point, the moment I took everything back. There's a strange kind of quiet that comes after surviving something heavy. Not silence, more like a calm you earn. A calm that settles into your bones and whispers, "You made it." That's the quiet I started waking up to. After the court ruling, after reclaiming my house, after shutting out the chaos Emily left behind, I began rebuilding not just my home, but myself. And this time, I wasn't rushing. I wasn't forcing. I wasn't pretending everything was fine, just to keep the peace. I took it slow. Piece by piece. Day by day. Rebuilding emotionally at first. It felt strange to live without the constant tension I had gotten used to. I didn't realize how much energy I spent walking on emotional eggshells around Emily until I didn't have to anymore. Started taking morning walks again, something she always said was a waste of time. I sat in coffee shops with a book, just enjoying the quiet. I reconnected with old friends I had drifted away from, friends who told me, "Man, we're glad you're back. You disappeared." They were right. For a long time, I wasn't myself. I was someone trying too hard to hold on to a relationship that was already cracking. But now, I was rediscovering who I was, and it felt good. In a slow, healing kind of way. Rebuilding financially and professionally. The stress had drained me, but getting my home back meant I finally had solid ground to stand on again. I threw myself into work, not to escape, but because I finally had room to focus. My boss noticed the change. "You're sharper lately," he said during a project meeting. "More confident." Maybe it was because surviving betrayal forces you to grow a backbone you didn't know you had. A month later, he called me into his office and offered me a promotion, project lead on one of the biggest developments our firm had taken on in years. I accepted. Not out of pride, but out of gratitude. Because after everything fell apart, life was gently stitching itself back together. How far I had come. One night, I sat on my new couch in my freshly repainted living room, with the soft glow of a lamp filling the space. And it really hit me, how far I had come. A few months earlier, I was standing in the ruins of my life, lost, confused, blindsided by someone I trusted. But now I was standing on my own 2 feet, stronger, wiser, calmer. I realized something important that night. Betrayal didn't destroy me. It shaped me. It forced me to face uncomfortable truths. It made me rebuild things I never thought I'd lose. It pushed me to grow beyond a version of myself that was too trusting, too forgiving, too blind. Emily didn't win. Her betrayal didn't define me. What defined me was the way I got back up, forged by the fire sitting there. I finally understood something I'd been avoiding for months. Sometimes life breaks you just enough to rebuild you in a stronger form. Sometimes the people who hurt you don't ruin your story, they push you into the chapter you were meant to reach. Emily tried to steal my future. She tried to rewrite my life in her favor. But all she really did was push me toward a better version of myself, a version that knows his worth, a version that protects his peace, a version that doesn't hand his future to the wrong hands. This wasn't just a resolution. It was a new beginning.
A new chapter, written by me and only me. If someone had told me a year ago that my life would fall apart and rebuild itself all in the same breath, I wouldn't have believed them. But life has a way of teaching you lessons you never asked for. Lessons you don't appreciate until you've walked through the fire and made it out on the other side. And looking back now, I realize I wasn't just fighting for a house. I was fighting for my name, my voice, my future. This journey taught me more than I ever expected. I used to believe trust was automatic. You meet someone, you like them, and slowly you hand them pieces of your life. You give them your heart, your habits, your passwords, your plans. But what I learned is this: trust should be earned slowly, not given quickly. Emily didn't break my trust in one moment. She chipped away at it bit by bit. A hidden envelope here, a borrowed password there, a signature she helped me with. Small things that didn't look dangerous until you lined them up side by side. Now I know. Anyone who rushes to take control of parts of your life is someone you should slow down with. Your name is more than letters on paper. It's your identity, your reputation, your anchor in the world. Emily tried to use my name like it belonged to her, signing forms, opening accounts, making choices I never agreed to. For a while, I felt ashamed that I didn't see it coming. But the shame fades when truth steps forward. And the truth is simple. Your name has value. Guard it. Protect it. Don't let anyone attach their plans to it without your permission. Your signature is not just ink. It's your future written in strokes. Emily built her plan on lies. She covered her tracks, forged documents, rehearsed explanations, and believed she could bury the truth deep enough that no one would ever find it. But lies have a short life. They crumble the moment light touches them. And when the courtroom lights hit her secret files, her practice signatures, her step-by-step plan, the truth walked in and shut everything else down. That's something I'll never forget. You don't have to shout to defend yourself. Sometimes you just have to stand still long enough for the truth to catch up. For a long time, I thought betrayal destroyed me. It didn't. It forced me to rebuild, to reflect, to step into the version of myself I should have been all along. Pain doesn't stop your life. It shapes it. And sometimes the biggest heartbreak leads to the biggest breakthrough. As I sit in my living room now, walls freshly painted, future finally steady, I realize something I wish I knew earlier. Losing everything can sometimes be the first step to gaining yourself. Emily tried to steal my future. She tried to rewrite my story. But in the end, she only pushed me toward a path that was clearer, stronger, and more honest. I learned to trust with caution, to protect what matters, to listen when my instincts whisper. And most of all, I learned that no matter who tries to bury the truth always rises. So here's the moral of my story. Guard your future, value your name, and never underestimate your ability to rise after being broken. Because sometimes the betrayal that shakes your world is the very thing that builds the strongest version of you. If this story touched something in you, if you've ever faced betrayal or fought to take your life back, don't leave without subscribing. Here, every broken truth gets rebuilt, every voice gets heard, and every story reminds you you're stronger than what tried to destroy you. Thank you for watching. Stay strong.